have been telling lies all the way, especially in this area of insecurity, and shamelessly so, because we on the ground know exactly what we are going through or what our relatives are going through, and then you hear statements that things are improving. The last time I remember I spoke to Arise, somebody representing an advisor on non-kinetic whatever to the CDS was there talking about Boko Haram being degraded by 82%. I mean, look at the precision, trying to create an impression that there is statistics and data on which we can come up with a particular percentage. But you know what happened only recently? 22 of our soldiers, and 22 is the figure that hit the press. God knows really what number are there. And I really, I have no words to describe the shamelessness of government. You know that your people are being killed daily. You know that you are not doing what you are supposed to do. You know that the constitution of the country to which we have sworn in has made it very clear that government is there precisely to protect the life, welfare, and property of the citizens. You have failed to protect the welfare of citizens. They are having problem to feed themselves. There's poverty.
But the government has been
failed to secure the country. We have failed in every sense, and you are there, running around with big jeeps, and sirens, and intimidating people.
Doctor, to be fair to them, they will tell you that they've been injecting resources, running into trillions.
No,
taking a look at the budget.
Look, they're not injecting any resources. They are stealing resources. They are stealing resources.
At the same time, we've seen the relocation.
Wait a minute. Let's get this in very clear. If you have read Premium Times, for example, this is the season of budget defense, right? There was a chair of, I think, universities in the House of Reps who was reported to be collecting 480 million.
That was debunked.
Fair enough. It's an allegation. Fair enough. But, I've been in that place. I'm sure you will concede to me some understanding of the internal, and I still have people and I talk to them. So people in the National Assembly, people in the executive arm of government, people at the local government, governors, everybody is stealing. And this is why the country is crumbling. And look at it. How many people do we have out of school? We have the largest number of children out of school. This is a crime, against humanity.
That's right.
A child who is innocent, who cannot take care of himself, you can't provide for his education. Look at the level of insecurity. And from the projections made by experts in a circle that I belong to, we are going to have more insecurity at the moment. I mean, in the next coming few months.
What are the statistics? We'll talk about that in detail. But let's get the last tidbit. Then we'll now come back to the conversation proper. The House of Reps Committee on Constitutional Reform, amendment rather, is proposing creation of additional 31 states.
If I have my way, I will take all of them to psychiatric hospital.
What?
They are crazy. Look at the economy. This is an economy where there is a deficit of grain as of 2023-2024 agriculture season. We have a deficit of 30 metric tons in grains alone. After that, look at the Maiduguri floods. Look at the one in Jigawa, in Taraba, in Kebbi, in Zamfara, in so many other places. The deficit must have been much more than that. We have not been able to do that. The United Nations report says 33 million Nigerians are on the verge of starvation. It's not risk, verge of the starvation, which is basically saying that unless something is done immediately, they will die. And then you are here sitting down and trying to increase the state, increase the cost of governance, increase more thieves into government.
And they respond also to other yearnings. Democracy is about representation. And they're also looking at the need to expand and of course accommodate some of those concerns around marginalization and so on and so forth.
Look, let's come back. A lot of them, I don't think they have the education to understand what is actually the purpose of government in the 21st century and how to run a government. There are people largely brought from God knows where. We have no idea. And you can see it. All they know is how to make money.
But isn't it their responsibility to accommodate some of those agitations?
Let me take this opportunity to say something that is very fundamental. I know it's not going to be popular, but it's important. The idea of nation state in world history started in 1648 with the Westphalia Agreement. And from that time to date, the nation state has evolved, and tools of governance and ideas of governance have evolved over time. Including democracy, including all the features of democracy, the rule of law, the separation of powers, and the rest of it. But still, there are three fundamental things that define the sovereign state. One, hold on your territory. 2, food security, your ability to feed your citizens. 3, medical supplies, your ability to supply yourself with medical supplies. What I know is that Nigeria does not have total hold on its territory at the moment. There are parts of Nigeria that wait a minute. Whatever the government says, the government is known to be telling lies. I don't believe anything that they say. I mean, this is how many times have they said all
they
these
did not
things?
dispute the fact that there are ungovernable spaces, actually, but they,
Right. That's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. There are territories that are just left for Turji. There are territories for Dogo Gide. There are territories for ISWAP. There are territories for Boko Haram. I mean, this is a known fact. They themselves admit to the fact that these are territories where these people, are sovereign. They decide what happens.
But they are said to be on the run. They're said to be on the run now because of the military intervention. And
I don't believe what they say. If they want me to believe, let me see it on the ground. Let me see it on the ground.
Recently, they were in one of the operations. They said, the son and the child, who belongs to Turji.
Honestly, I have stopped believing this.
Has been eliminated.
I have stopped believing this rubbish. For how long have they done so? I come from Katsina, like you rightly said. My house is not too far away from the airport. Anytime I go home, for the last nearly 10 years, there is an Air Force a group there that are supposed to be going after these people. Up till now, I've not seen. The only time they succeed in throwing bombs are on innocent people who have nothing to do with this conflict, who are in fact victims of this particular conflict. I thought the whole of them should be sent out of that place. I don't honestly see anything good in what they are doing, and they are consuming money. In a way, if they want to justify with them, let's see the result on the ground.
In a way, you are reinforcing what the locals have said. In Tsiga, that there has been
part of the locals.
There has been calls to the authorities to come to the rescue, but their call went unanswered. A general was abducted.
Shafiu, we have seen this severally. That you have a military post. When the bandits are going to attack, the military will leave that place. The bandits will come and do their worst
in a tactical withdrawal, or perhaps
and then they go back and they say because they don't have supply or whatever. And some of them anonymously have made the point that we don't have as much weapons as these people have. Our allowances are not paid. This we don't have, that we don't have. And this money has been budgeted, but their officers, or somehow in the hierarchy with the civil servants and the ministries of defense and police and whatever, there are people, there is a cartel there that takes away this money. And you see buildings rising, you see houses bought in Western metropolitans. And we all know how this thing's gone. It's just that the citizens do not have sufficient consciousness and the courage to come out and get rid of these politicians that have been literally destroying this country for the last 25 years.
Perhaps another opportunity looms 2027. Before we talk about that, let's go into the conversation proper, the main topic. To just oppose what you've been saying, and what is going on right now, because the conversation seems to be around 2027, seems to be about strategic positioning, by the political actors. Take, for instance, Kaduna, where I know you are a resident, just like I'm also a resident. The governor, the former governor, and his successor happens to be political allies. But we're beginning to see them, removing the gloves and then about to begin, engaging each other in fisticuffs, so to speak. With the statement made by, former governor that 150 billion naira has been given, to the state, allegedly, to what he calls selective intervention now. You are in the state.
I would not want to go into this.
Oh, okay.
You see, this kind of infighting and this messy kind of thing is all part of our rotten politics. Politicians who serve their terms and they are leaving will select someone who will cover their ground. This is what we have seen. And so when they have their internal fightings, I think it's good for us to know exactly what the truth is.
Yeah.
So for me, honestly, I have no word to add to that. We wait and see. We just pray that God will expose those who have really eaten up our money.
But how does this impact governance? Because fundamentally, the conversation has shifted from, for instance, talking about the scorecard, what I have done or what I'm doing, surpassing what my predecessor has done. For instance, in Kaduna, the argument is around, okay, that there is some some facelift in terms of infrastructural development. There is also some sort of reforms, taking place. At some point, the previous administration is talking about improving the IGR. Here we are talking about increasing states. Quite a number of states cannot even stand on their feet. But Kaduna, courtesy of some of those reforms, can boast of 48 billion naira monthly IGR compared to what used to be 13 billion or so. Now, the conversation is not around all of this, but it's just about fights for positioning or strategic position.
I really don't know, because you see, I do see your point as a journalist, right? But I think it's everybody's knowledge.
Yeah.
The last 25 years, this country has been going down the drain. Poverty has more than doubled. Insecurity has escalated to levels that were previously inconceivable. Infrastructure of government has decayed and is not improving. No service delivery in social sector that is available. Nothing is literally working. So the sum total of these politicians should really be ashamed of themselves. They should be apologizing, returning their loot if they are really honest and they want to help this country, and allow.
If they agree that they looted.
Okay, fine. Okay, let them keep it. Let them give the way. Give way for people. There are very many competent people around. But because the politics itself has become cash and carry, and is defined by thugs, by thuggery, basically. This is why decent people who have something to offer, who are ready to really pull this country up and place it at par with its own peers within Africa,
right. So
or even within other, the international community, are not willing to come out.
So what does this say? What does this say about leadership accountability? Earlier you were talking about deficits virtually everywhere in the area of education, for instance.
So you
talked about out-of-school children. What I'm trying to point here is that the current administration has been saying that quite a number, huge resources has been channeled to the subnationals as courtesy of the removal of subsidy. Some of them are getting 3 times or 4 times what they used to get. Are we really seeing this
4 or 5 times of what they used to get is useless, because the purchasing power has been destroyed by the crazy step that this government took in devaluating this currency. What's the point? You devalue my currency and then you give me rubbish? What's the point? And the people should be told that they have done something, a crime really that is beyond. Which country in the world has ever tried to or allowed its currency to be devalued like that? Nigeria is not the first country to face this economic problem. Malaysia had it some 25 years ago, but they did not go through the path of the IMF, and they recovered to the point when World Bank, IMF had to go to Kuala Lumpur, sit down with the experts to learn something that they have done. And we have experts here, far more than they have in Malaysia, who can figure out what to do.
So you think the beginning of the problem is, of course, accepting some of those IMF postulations or IMF prescriptions?
Precisely.
But the government is saying that they're yielding results.
No, where is the result? Where are the investors? Look at what the Manufacturers Association said. Their report this year said over 700 businesses have closed down. The stats up of about 78 or 70 plus million US dollars, have backed up. Nothing is working. There is no progress in any dimension in this country. Not in the economy, not in security, not in agriculture, not in anything. We are yet to see it, because there are metrics by which you measure these things. And even if you don't, take any statistics, the world, UNDP would be taking statistics not just for Nigeria, for every other country under the United Nations. The people around the climate change will, I think they call CCCN, the United Nations climate change. They will be measuring the carbon that is being emitted everywhere. The World Bank will be taking statistics. The FAO will be taking. So these world bodies, because they produce regular statistics. Right. If you take these statistics and measure them, you can see that Nigeria is sinking. It's not progressing. But it is sinking precisely because all these problems, when you sum it up and you really go down there, it's leadership.
Okay, talking about leadership, and of course there has been this conversation around the need to change the narrative, but this is not the first time where politicians are coming together to talk about the need to change the status quo, but largely the conversation is around how to grab power. We are beginning to see opposition elements in the country coming together, like it happened in 2014, for instance. But it is not about providing alternatives or perhaps coming up with ideas that will solve the problem, but it's just about...
Now, this is where we are coming differently.
Yeah.
We are saying that the conversation should not be about fighting coalition of politicians to fight this regime and then to capture power. That's not the right thing. We have seen this severally. It has not yielded any result. We have to first start a conversation as to what are the qualifications for leadership. You need to have very clear criteria for leadership. At the moment, there is no criteria of any kind. What you have is that anybody who can claim to have a secondary school education and has a lot of money, God knows how he makes that money, he just comes into politics. Now, this is the beginning of the crisis of the country, and therefore we have to now challenge the leadership recruitment process to make sure that there are clear criteria for leadership.
So what is the first step? Because you have to address also the concerns around the framework, for instance, electoral reforms and so on and so forth. How do we do that?
Of course, there are proposals for electoral reforms which government after government ignored. Late Eradua set up the Always Committee, and they have produced a number of proposals. Maybe not up to 20-25% of that. These proposals, these recommendations are still there. Unbundle INEC. Do this, step 1, 2, 3, 4. Every regime comes and they find if they do that, they will be bringing a very strong INEC or a very strong electoral process, and that's not going to give them the kind of thing they want. They prefer a weak INEC, a corrupt INEC, a corrupt judiciary, so that they can continue to come over and steal our resources and carry it away and install their cronies to remain there so they can cover their back. And then they go outside and they just enjoy their loot. This is what politicians.
So where's the place of the ordinary people? Because going into the 2027 election, many believe that Nigerians would have to, the ordinary decide whether this.
The ordinary people are worried. They are angry. They are suffering. It's not easy for an ordinary person who has not sufficient education, awareness to do this. It is the elite that are supposed to mobilize to create a kind of collegial leadership. I don't think this country can be fixed by just one person, no matter how good he is. You just simply elect one person and then he comes in. What we have seen is that he locks his door after election and his wife becomes the Queen Elizabeth I and the daughter of Henry VIII, and then his children become the prince and princess of a Saudi monarch. Everybody doing what he pleases. We don't want that kind of thing. Wait a minute. We must have the elite have a responsibility to mobilize, to come forward and say this mess must stop. Right?
So how do we?
And we are going to do it legally. If necessary, we'll demonstrate. We will mobilize. We will refuse to accept the fraud that has become the election in Nigeria. Look at the election in Kaduna. You're talking about Kaduna State. And most of the states that have a local government election, 100% every party. This is ridiculous. And it just tells you how shameless these politicians are.
So, but how do we reconcile? You're talking about the elite consensus now coming together to checkmate, the excesses of those in power.
This is precisely
and again, it's coming at the time. Many are also concerned about the seeming crackdown on opposition or dissenting voices. People who criticize government, largely, the public space is gradually shrinking. So, how do we reconcile these issues?
When the military were there, Abacha were there was no space at all. But we came forward. We formed the G18. It became the G34. And we fought him. Yes, we were arrested, we were detained, our passports were seized. But here we are. When Obasanjo was wanted to do a third term, we opposed him. He had the army, he had the police, he had the treasury, he had the SSS, he had everything. We were being harassed. Everything we were doing, but we succeeded. So I don't think the fact that the space is closed or the space is shrinking or the fact that they have a lot of money, it will not stop us. How many people have succeeded around the world? Look at the story of Fujimori. Fujimori of Peru bought everybody in his country. There was nobody. He has bought the judges, he has bought the security, he has bought the journalists, he bought everybody. That did not stop Fujimori from being removed forcefully from his country. He fled to Japan, later on to Chile. He was brought back and he was put in jail. He died only last September, in humiliation. Therefore, I have no worry about this thing. It's just that the elite have become largely, I don't know, maybe out of fear or out of whatever, they have shrunk and they have refused to take the responsibility that their knowledge and their position in society has placed on their shoulders.
Right, okay, as we round up now, because to do all of this, some will say there is also need for a united front. Take, for instance, the conversations around the need, to change to influence the leadership recruitment process, perhaps to come up with strong forces that can change, the current trajectory and so on. But then we are coming in a fragmented kind of arrangement. Quite a number of people have come up with different organizations. You just convene a northern conference talking about the same challenges other groups are also talking about. We have the Northern Elders Forum. We have quite a number of people. The League of Northern Democrats. Again, we have the Northern Star, and so on and so forth. And here we are talking about galvanizing a united front, to confront challenges facing us. How do we do that?
It's not a difficult thing. Even when we did what we did previously, there were groups. There were groups trying to do the same thing. There were groups paid and sponsored to do exactly the opposite. That did not stop us from succeeding. So I don't see that as a problem. For example, in the conference we did in Kaduna last week, what we did was we made sure that the NEF, Northern Elders Forum, were involved, and they came. Their Director General gave a goodwill message, very good goodwill message. The Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, was also invited. They were there. There was the Jamia Matan Arewa, the Organization for Northern Women. There was CAN, there was Form 1, there were, all these groups came, and they stayed through. And if you look at our communique, you find that those elements were there. The Team New Nigeria were there. So what we are trying to do is to bring everybody together into some kind of consensus, and that consensus is building. And once that consensus is, those who agree to move will move. Those who don't agree to move, they stay and do what they want to do. They will not stop us from doing what we want to do. But certainly, we have to come forward and salvage this country. It's not about political party. It's not about opposition. It's about salvaging the country itself from the hands of politicians who have had the opportunity for 25 years to build their country. All they have done is to destroy it, steal the money, destroy it, and create a culture of politics that is defined by violence and money.
Some will say, are we importing different set of people because the same people revolve around the political party? No,
there are a large number of good people in this country. You won't see them because the stage has been taken over by the rogues. But that does not mean that there are no good people. And when you mobilize them, you motivate them, you raise their consciousness, they will come out. And they will fight and they will salvage their country. I don't know how long it will take. I don't know whether some of us will be alive, but this is something that must be done.
Is it likely going to be done from the grassroots? Because so many said the problem has to do with the subnationals.
You cannot do this without the grassroots. And we are getting into the grassroots. We have imams, we have pastors.
Before coming to the center, some would say it has to start perhaps with the states. That is where the problem is. Largely the population is there at the grassroots level. Largely, the resources are also channeled towards the subnationals. But everyone is looking at the center.
You see, this issue of center and periphery is, if there are any discussions on them, it's just a matter of it's just the fact that we have brought in people in politics who have no idea of governance. You see, governance in the 21st century is a corporate scientific business. No country has made progress and succeeded without bringing in the tools of governance that the 21st century understands and works with, right? And so if we are going to do it, it's not going to. These people who are quarreling and arguing and all this, largely they are ignorant of this. And they are part of the mess that is holding this country, down. And our hope is that we'll raise sufficient awareness, we'll mobilize, and we'll inject into the politics people with a better understanding of governance, and people with more honest, more sincere, ready to make sacrifices so this country can be great. This country is what the whole Africa is waiting for. This country in the next 25 years is going to be the third largest country after India and China. Africa itself is going to be a quarter of the world's population in 25 years. And Africa is going to have the youngest population in the world. The mean age will be 19, while Europe will have mean age between 40 to 50. Some Asian countries will have between 30 to 40. So the future is here. The future is here. But these people who are leaders have no idea of where to take this country to. All they know is their pockets. How do they install this stooge, this crony? How do they get this contract? This is why this country is not making progress.
Okay.
Did you listen to that? Bugaji. Anywhere you turn to now problem upon problem. Tinubu government with a lot of problems, a lot of quarrel with from everywhere. In fact, I'm not tired for this. Everywhere you turn to now, Tinubu problem, Tinubu government problem. So there you did see you. So 2027 election, now problem on this own. Make we just live, manage and survive till 2027. That 2027 election. Oh boy, may all of us dey alive to witness what will happen. Because the way when these people did now, they don't plan, they don't ready for Tinubu. They don't ready for Tinubu. 2027. Anyway, I don't know. I don't see Tinubu becoming the president after 2027. I'm not sure say it would be possible. No. With all this one now, from east, south, west, everybody. No, I'm not sure. Anyways, what do you think? You listen to what he talk, everything. Bugaji, this man don't start since last year. This one don't they criticize Tinubu. He don't they speak, he don't they talk since till today. And that time, if they expect, say, before now, that they say, give a chance, give Tinubu a chance, that they say, before that time, things would have get better. Before this time, yet, it's even going worse. It's not getting better. It's not getting better. So, it creates rooms for people to talk, for people to criticize. In fact, it's problem on its own. So, please, share this video now, comment, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy, run out for me, subscribe so that you see videos like this. Most especially now when we are heading gradually going to the details of the 2027 election. Very soon the matter will start. Otherwise, you know, we'll get updates. So subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you get updates. Please.